Welcome to our lovely future humans. To those who know, you don't talk love into people. You don't talk sense into being yourself to people, because it's only if they choose not only to know how repeatable, replicable results, like this lovely man was saying, is the science-based stuff on your nervous system, your biology, neuroscience, but you're not a monkey, right? You don't want to train yourself, so, unless you're treating yourself like an object. So what you would want to do, if you're going to be yourself, and it's not advice, it's actually own the sense of self, you learn how to harness your nervous system. So the ability to manage it, I'm reading my notes, that is what will create the eustress that I learned from Dr. Danny Siegel, and that I actually get to have in my body, and that actually, before even Dr. Danny Siegel, I learned from Jesus. How to forgive people and turn the other cheek. And so we were talking about how being stronger than dysfunctional patterns is hard in a society that has mediocre behavior. Look cool. Yeah, I was a teenager when I saw it. And it's teenager Maria, and I'm looking at this human being who thinks they're cool. I thought they were cool for a small time, but the grown-ups kept talking sense to us. And so by that third year of my adolescent year, I'm like, you know what? The grown-ups are right. You're not cool. Actually, the entire group, you're all bad. You break the law. You're getting in trouble. You're continuing to, I know I smoke cigarettes, but you're doing a lot of other things. And again, we're all fools, but you're continuing down the path. Yeah, you're all, so sorry, God. I didn't mean to do that. So one, I come with God, Jesus, Holy Spirit as a 5D mystic, FYI, Christ consciousness. And as a luminous warrior, the smart ones of us, we're intelligent minds. We don't do mediocre behavior. We also don't do, let me look at the mediocre movies of all these idiots and think, wow, let me copy them. No, it's, wow, I really wonder. No, I don't actually. Stephen Porges, he's the one. I thank him so much. Biologically rude people don't realize that they're biologically rude, because they will have a story for themselves as soon as their body is deciding to bring shame up again, and then they do it. Oops, I did it again. And then between shame and guilt and revenge and pettiness, they continue to grow up. So when you are mastered in Resh, this is called the prefrontal cortex. It's called that Maria's left and right mode. So those are the people who will be back here, because emotionally intelligent human beings are also mentally intelligent. We know that we're not fighting any kind of superhero, supervillain. So with God and Akash Source, I'm sharing channel guidance, food for thought, and messages and stories, okay? Just so you know, it's not like 1, 2, 3s. This is just going to be for the luminous warriors, and they're mystic, spiritual, and mindful. So they definitely know being stronger than dysfunctional patterns is hard, but it's worth it. Because the society that has mediocre behavior look cool between all bad entertainment, all bad songs, all. And I know I'm making a blanket statement, but there's a bunch of just pop, all the pop stuff. So when I'm seeing adolescents now, because I do see them, they're behaving like the adolescents I knew. But the difference is I noticed and said, you're out, you're out, you're out. I'm sorry, you're out, they're all out. Okay, these are mine and those are out. Okay, so I'm going to let you know, being yourself empowered means this. Teenage boyfriend, I'm not changing like Grease. That's disgusting. I didn't use that word. It's very strong, but I'm not insecure. So when you're secure, you are enlightened. And that's why I look forward to the future Buddha who's enlightened and going to bring some new stuff so that people can understand. You do the ventral vagal portfolio of toning exercises with the mindfulness meditation to get integration. But you need the first and foremost part, the Dr. Amy Apigan, to let you know, neuroception. It's not willpower or motivation. First, get your body, and that's an embodied brain, into the body that wants to be a luminous warrior. So intelligent minds, like the ones who will be back, we use our memory. We're not committed to it using us. So our 14-month-old, our likes and dislikes don't rule us. We actually are very capable of saying, hey, 3-year-old, it's okay. We don't like what is happening to those poor children. We will get it fixed, because humanity are smart ones over here and the other ones over there, but the smart ones are the ones who are seeing it, because we have the energy, because we're true warriors. So we know how to treat our body. We know how to treat our body means our mind, by the way. And so every single bit of everything, we're not doing the dark sides of neuroplasticity, because that's just monsters in heads. Oh, also it's called fantasy stages. So the people who are hooked on that magical thinking, so they'll be basically in what is, I don't watch a lot of the yucky stuff that is out there. And to this day, when I know people get off on experiencing certain types of movies, I think you are really using your nervous system to feel that which is suffering in your body in ways that is a biochemistry of fear, and then in ways that actually happens out there in the world where some children actually are physically being still treated in ways that, then you want me to think that that is a very valuable use of your time, your life, your existence. And then I'm thinking of the bigger picture of the world, and I'm like, you want to tell me, excuse me, come again? I'm utopistic. Yes, I'm definitely amazed with my utopia. Thank you so much for pointing out that which I clearly will smile in the face of someone at. And so that's how it works to be smart and strong. It means you do know how to ask for help. And when someone's not actually noticing that what comes out of their mouth is something that would need them to go get help, because watching a doomsday clock, or basically feeling that using time in ways with, it's called, where is she? Smart lady. Let me get that. She's actually the perfect one to use for this. Thank you, Laura LeCunff. So when you have 3 types of destructive mindsets, there's a cynical, which is a guy who says, I just find it to be a world, it's not about what feels right, what is right. Then we got escapist, so every single, let's just hang out and do shit that is fantasy land and use virtual reality to get out of our yeah, there's a lot of different ways I could bring you things that I'm going to again repeat. Being stronger than dysfunctional patterns is a choice. It is hard in a world where mediocre behavior is supported, but Dan Martell points out every day of your life you get to choose what to eat, what to consume, what to read, what to drink, what to do, and then you're going to be choosing what your future is. So every day counts with intent. So it's not let's waste our time. It's okay, we can all use our time, and of course moderation is key. So I still watch movies. I just allow myself to not think of the fact that they replicate mediocre human being minds who are betraying their self and cowards. And it's not a monster called Lucifer. I told God, he taught me how not to play know-it-all on purpose. No, he just taught me that I need to mind my own business, because that's exactly how it works. So while we're all walking angels, some of us know what is in your best interest since we were a kid. And then people say, you don't listen to what we do. We tell you. Why should we listen to you? Oh, I don't like to be a hypocrite. You're right. Shit. Okay, so sorry about that. Now I'm a grown-up. I'm like, I'm not telling anybody anything except for if they tell me I'm doing great. No, I don't say it. That's so cynical, escapists, and then we got the perfectionist. I'm a healthy version, but they think that I'm pressuring them to be boring. Yeah, that's the system trying to hold them down. When you hear 50-year-old men and 60 saying shit like this, you think, wow, am I back to my teenage years with all these, the system's trying to hold us down? Yeah, I said anarchy. I still root for anarchy because I'm not actually afraid of pathologies. Oh, I'm not kidding, by the way. As a luminous warrior, I know exactly when I meet people now what to look for, because we're all nervous systems, so you don't lie to anyone. In fact, smart people, when you're explaining to them how the nervous system works, they're like, so none of us can hide things. Yeah, I told my teenage friends that. They didn't believe me. They continued to look with suspicious minds, and they're now like complete donkeys on Pinocchio's island. Believe me, it is not looking great. But, I mean, hey, if they are convinced that their destructive mindset is going to be the beautiful imagination, again, when you see grown human beings, mid-30s, using everything the superheroes do, which is basically fantasy, but again, not really powerful, you think, sure, amazing, you have so much stamina, I just can't wait to meet more of your, oh, Dr. Amy, thank you so much. So neuroception explained, and that's where when people feel safe or under threat, and she's talking about how your habitual brain, yes, some people will be resistant to treatment because the default mode network is something you work with an expert on. Okay, so while people that have been in my courses don't notice that their body is in protective mode, the experts do, and then they try to educate them on what the objective of their body is, because our embodied brains are smarter than the left brain. I'm an empowered feminine. So intelligent minds are securely attached to non-traumatized people, which there are attachment coaches. They've called our attachment category boring, and I've said that's not really going to motivate people who are hooked on drama, fantasy stages. And you know, let me tell you some more of my stories, shall I? Because as an empowered feminine who didn't always have attachment trauma education, I got a bunch of different experiences that now I'm like, wow, I'm so happy I knew how to turn the other cheek. that they're my brothers and sisters, and that they're still humans, so they're still the same angels. They're not monsters. They just have biological rudeness and could get it healed if only they wanted to use their brain. Yeah, that would be really awesome. How to train your nervous system for optimal performance. If only they'd get... No, that won't be enough, because they would have to actually realize at a certain point, are you treating your own self like an object and therefore distancing yourself from the fact that the first 3 years of your life are all implicit memory? So if you really want to go all the way back to the beginning, like Patrick Chan points out, there's going to be moments that you're going to want to be with a fetal position. So it's an honor to meet the ones who are healing, by the way. And then it's an honor to meet the ones of you who support the ones who heal. So we will continue to put gold in their cracks. I have no cracks. I have a solid foundation. That's why God taught me not to play know-it-all. And then it's why he kept me away from some people. I had no business being near them. And that's because I wasn't attachment trauma informed. Now that I am, I know exactly how to do any of that, which is I'm a ventral vagal state, and my self-love comes first. Everything else comes after. It's living a life of meaning and connection beyond the soul self. You don't leave people out to hang, like my facade friend, as God doesn't want any of his angels to be fallen and to use unhealthy fear. So you pick them up out of the desert, and then you say, I'll be here for you, and then you do. And then you allow yourself to know whether they prayed or not. Once your journey has come to an end, that those who expand will continue to grow and become more of themselves. Those who stagnate and stay into the mediocre intelligence brain of theirs, like my facade friend, go to that dead end. They're still functioning human beings. The difference is that they, with the dead end, are going to be a mask. It's called the fake self. Then they're going to have ups and downs and merry-go-rounds because they don't own their nervous system. So they don't own their personality patterns. They don't have fun with their child parts. They don't have fun with their temperament. They don't have fun with any of it. And they still think that they are not good enough. They don't want to be seen, you see? So unseen, unsoothed, unsafe, unsecure, that's why they like to get off on their self-righteous energy. It's the only strength they have, which is not strong. Which is also why when you see them, the 4D, getting structurally dissociated on screen, you just think, well, that's not an angel. That's just a person who is in their magical thinking, codependent, offline, dissociative, and they're continuing to not notice they're not luminous. They're just using a gut. That is not a medicine wheel. They're not healing. They're just in a low frequency because they don't love. They're afraid. They're afraid of that which is, I don't know what went on in their house, but some shit went down. So they're just using their self-righteous baton again and again. And so their likes and dislikes. When you see 14-month-olds, they have a ruler. And usually it's one human being who has a Wendy and a bunch born. And you just hear where they're chiming in from. And you're like, okay, that's how they know. Don't be yourself. No, be yourself, but the real self. And so with Resh comes our lovely prefrontal, as I've talked to you about this, the inner master. And so when you are faced with that which is light, you will know also that it shines in the darkness, and that darkness doesn't overcome it. I'm giving you a paraphrase here. And that they're complementary. So enlightenment people use pure consciousness. The higher self is you, and that's the highest level of spirituality. So if you're woo-woo pseudoscience, that's great. But the messages that I'm giving to you are for a mix of spiritual personal growth people, okay? So being yourself, empowered, enlightened, healthy, strong, smart, loving. And we don't ridicule or shame people or healing, but we don't allow ourselves to think that we don't have a right to say what it is. When I meet mediocre behavior, it's not cool. I actually must contain myself in an effort to fully respect human beings who are complete morons. Because the reality, this is the only word that would come out of my mouth. Then I would be disrespectful because I would know, like Peter Levine pointed out, that a bird with a broken wing is going to go into the cave with a cat. They don't want me because they never had it to begin with. So it's, double the pain for me because I'm like, wow, I have to put up with mediocrity, stupidity, moronism, but then I need to behave so that I don't hurt someone's feelings whose feelings were already hurt because they were shamed when they were a kid, and they don't even want to notice that their 0-8-year-old and they're 11, they don't want to notice their petty behavior. Let me think. Oh yes, I remember Jesus. That's how Maria is able to maintain the consistent, it's called compassionate, empathic boundaries, but really the people who don't like that I say, I'm not going to be your friend, by not saying it, by the way, not in their face, I just don't become their friends. So what happens when an unhealthy self-worth man is a stranger and they're drunk and they got rejected by a by another human being who they basically bugged the shit out of, who also took their side, might I add, as I did what I did, which I already had told them prior. I'm not interested in befriending those individuals, just so you know. So whenever you guys are all going to go in group, great, have a good time. I'll see you later, alligators. And in time, so this to be saluted, and it's not about decency. And I had a whole evening with this situation. So being yourself means you are able to be a self-regulating human being, which doesn't think, oh my God, I did something wrong. So when they got defended by the person, I said, do you subjectively think that you've given someone a shot? I subjectively think that the entire group that knew them even before we ever saw them have completely stated they are unbearable as a human being. So I mean, really, what they're speaking of and what I'm speaking of, and we're making fun of an entire situation because they are completely like a kid that never learned how to have social skills, but it's not a kid anymore. And it's like having the Three Stooges, just to be nice about it, okay? Just saying. So, decayed spiritual and science teachings, they don't enlighten anyone. Giving people green passes don't. Getting in people's faces doesn't either, because you don't dispel darkness or talk sense to people who want to stay in mediocre behavior, unhealthy self-soothing, and unhealthy no boundaries, like this dude who the next time I saw them they said this in my face, because I had to acknowledge them because they were walking with a friend of mine. Also, the whole am I not decent enough to be saluted, I'm like, if I don't acknowledge that would be really unkind of me, like mean. So I said, at least you looked at me. That's called passive aggressive. Now, other people don't realize that. For those of us who are securely attached, we really don't find it a pain in our ass too much. We find that I have good stories thanks to this person. Only a fool believes that success is achieved alone. Is real. Thank you, John Amachi. So, a luminous warrior is going to build a good herd, and we're going to be around healthy self-worth people because they're not going to like to be around those of us who love ourselves first if they don't like to love themselves first. So, again, it's empowered because we do want to be seen, we want to be heard, but we respect each other's differences. So nobody is better than anybody else. As for the spiritual mystic, that's the same. We know God talks to all of us the same, that we're all different voices, but we also all have a different purpose. So for me, I support people to do spiritual personal growth and be their self. And that's why the messages involve a number of different aspects, but they're always for you to open your heart to you, to be your one and only, that departs sickness and health, and that's where you bring forth your full self, and you're going to have a good time with people. You're going to have a good time because, like Jesus, you know how to forgive. One, enlightened ones know, as Terry Wheel would point out, that functional adult knows that people all over the world can have trauma. And that's why the movies are a very good representation of how they're deciding to let us know what they went through. And the ones who don't want to grow up, they like to keep using it as the way to live life. And it's unimpressive when you meet grown men and women who, again, they are allowing themselves actively to support not only their dysfunctional patterns, their maladaptive patterns of behavior, inner outer critic, drinking, drugging, fucking, let me justify a person who has unhealthy boundaries, let me get in someone's face who has unhealthy boundaries, or cut people out. So codependent people are not fascinating. People who don't know how to wield their nervous system are not fascinating. And when they dress it up as a mystic spiritual, they're bypassing, because they didn't go and get their embodied brain looked at so that they could bring their prefrontal cortex down, get out of their amygdala, stop being a self-righteous baton and telling us what they like and don't like between meat, not meat, devils, demons. And you can always tell when they're bringing in what they like and don't like, because they have a good group and a bad group. And they didn't remember that you don't choose good or bad. Also, there isn't this divide in the spiritual plane. Also, even for the grown-ups on the human plane, it's really black and white thinking. That's mediocre adaptive child brain people. Those are the people who don't know how to use their integrated brain. Actively, they have a hard time understanding concepts because their body begins to get into that. You might be aware of it, and they just begin to sound ridiculous. We, on the other hand, sound ridiculous because we bring it all in, and they don't know how to just shut up while we're talking. And as they talk over us, thinking that we're trying to prove something, they're not noticing that we're not proving, we're talking. And you're a kid, and I'm a kid, and you're a person, I'm a person, and we're not in school. So this is not quantitative data analysis. Also not presenting like, an amazing finding, engineering or something like that. Like, this is social time. So yeah, when people don't notice how they get ridiculous in social circumstances, you remember they don't know what it means to be grown up. And so with that, when you do meet grown-ups, let me go share my other, you know that you're never alone. And that's why we collaborate, and we like to clear the clutter together, and we like to hug each other. And so you get to learn how to continue to be humble and to be a person who can share with those who want to be smart, stable, mature, adaptive, rational, teachable, the love that is empowered, that strength which is we support each other to get into that which is a healthy day in, day out. Okay, so secure attachment, non-traumatized is very healthy. It's a very fun, and actually once you are mastered in your prefrontal, we are just, it's a blissful day always. And even when we're not in bliss, because we've created that resilience and we continue to do emotional intelligence development, it's not just a flow state, you're actually continuing to learn about yourself. So the highest level of spirituality, you get that one because you're being your true self, your clear channel, knowing when you're downloading, chiming in with all, and just it's very clear for you. If you have questions, you can let me know. But you're not a fool with a tool in a way of being a fool. You're a fool with a tool that knows that everybody can be a fool, but some of us are masters at being our true self, authentic. Then we're also channeling, and then we're sharing. Yeah, we all get the same message. Then we all interpret it to our communities, but the essence of the message will be to lead humanity to its next steps. So right now we are not divisive, those of us who are of the 5D collective, you see. We understand that we have new tools like AI that we're learning to use, and how are we going to regulate and stuff like that. We have countries who are having an issue right now, very big, a lot of big issues. We have environment that has issues. So every grown-up is going to be equanimous, discerning, and loving. The 5D collective is made of grown-ups, just so we're clear. So we're not divisive because we don't have petty issues over that which is happening on a global scale, on a local scale, on an individual, because again, it's not personal. It's very explainable. What home did you come from? Did you get yourself into becoming a real person, or do we deal with your Pinocchio? When we're dealing with Pinocchio, it's usually on the island, and that's why it's very hard for people to watch. Those of us who are the grown-ups, the adolescents still have the mediocre behavior, bad examples. So we're making sure also that we don't pass the self-righteous baton or the bad habit baton, which also involves not extremism. So you want to eat meat. You want to drink a little. I mean, really, it's again, moderation. Education is important, which is why I share with you all the attachment trauma education, because that's why it's replicable. The neuroscience, it's to a T. So the ones who make up a bullshit story for why they can keep living their unhealthy life based on mediocre movies, songs, and everything else. I saw them when I was a teenager, got to college, saw them again, got to out of college, saw them again. Now I'm grown, still seeing them, and then I'm seeing the younger one still doing shit. I'm like, okay. So with that being said, let's leave an example for the kids by talking about things, because I don't think the movies are going to do anything different. And also they still think cool means being, yeah, it's not impressive. I didn't find it impressive when I was a kid. I was like, the grown-ups are all right. You're all unreliable. You're all backstabbers. You're all liars. You're all cowards. And you're all doing the very wrong thing, which is not knowing that we're all on this globe. And it's a small world after all, like, let's make the world a better place for you and for me and the entire human race. There are children dying. So when I see the ones who yell at each other, they're not part of the solution. They're part of a very big sympathetic situation, and they want to be in their self-righteous batons. So they're going to keep having the opportunity to leave a bad example on how to discuss eloquently differences. It's not with hands and it's not with mouths. Instead, some of us are saying we're going to share what the luminous warriors do, and that's why we're the future humans. We're already here. Again, we have a body connected. We love ourselves first. We know exactly what Jesus meant with forgive, they don't know. Stephen Porges confirms. So whole self people know that the ones who don't want to be seen, they have shadows, so they come up and down and merry-go-round, and they wear masks. So we get to meet their masked self, and they're at a dead end something. So they think that we're buffoons. In the meantime, we're like, no, we know what we're doing. We're having a good time with an open heart. And so when they fall, we still pick them up, because that's nice, because that's what you do in a herd. You help each other up just because Diego was trying to betray Manny and Sid doesn't mean that Sid doesn't recognize he learned from his mistakes. Now, if Diego were to want to stay with his family, then he would stay out in the desert because he wouldn't take the bridge and become a part of the herd, right? Okay, so it's very clear we're not afraid when you have Resh, the prefrontal cortex. We're not afraid of those who are basically pathologies, because unhealthy self-worth people don't hang out with healthy self-worth ones. They're too busy wanting to play this mediocre, unhealthy games that they do. And so it's called drama kings and queens, and their stories are horrendous and their behavior is annoying. And as you get older, it doesn't change. So thank you, Sadhguru, for his quote today is, fear is a consequence of being unconscious. Yes, the unhealthy fear for sure. Being fearful does not save us. No, it doesn't save anyone. But fear can save you, the real kind, because it'll have you hopefully run away. We don't know, or maybe faint. But we hope nobody has to find themselves in that. Only by being conscious can we truly create life. So yeah, when you're in your prefrontal cortex, that's when you are being yourself and the yin yang. So it's really fun, emotionally intelligent, mentally intelligent people join us. And as for those who are not mystics, but are curious, it's really fun. You will learn from your oversoul again and again and again how to continue choosing to be love in life. And that's obviously for those of us who did say yes to Jesus, Holy Spirit, God. And I do make fun of Buddha, but I still know what his wisdom brings. And I know all of spirituality brings the same wisdom science brings. Be yourself, because your real self doesn't change. It's once you're unmasked that you'll know this. And if you're still here, I'm sure you're unmasked. So our hearts connect with other hearts. We're all like-minded. We're like-hearted. Like-minded depends, but we like to share those minds because we're intrigued, and we do know that there's not a competition when it comes to words. Words, teaching stories, they change over time, like Shakespeare. We don't speak Shakespeare anymore. And when societal culture is up for change, that's where I have humanities, social sciences in my back pocket and front pocket, my bachelor's degree in political science and my master's degree in international relations and diplomacy. I know all about how the world works and how society works. So it's not actually something distasteful. The only ones who have distaste for being a human are the same ones who might want to go and double check why that is, because their faith in humanity has been broken. And the ones who want to talk about monsters, well, they're not God, and they obviously forgot that. So when you forget that there's only one, you forget that if you are of faith, you know that there's never something wrong that is being given to you to experience. And if you talk about source and energy, then you know that there's always a balance, cosmic karmic balancing. So once again, there's no wrong. The people who have suffering when this happens, they don't know how to do open-ended inquiry, meaning have no goal when things come up. Okay, so fear, sadness, anger, those are basic 3 subcortical areas emotions that we use. Thanks, Dr. Anna Siegel, for the PDP framework. So when your personality patterns are yours, your temperament and attachment, you're not going to turn to chaos or rigidity. When your self is decentralizing and you're going through an experience of expansion, you're going to expand. As you're going to sit in the middle, and with that 8th and 9th chakra that we're expanding right now, 5th dimension people and beyond, mystic, spiritual, or mindful, it's basically a common sense person is having to bring it to you. Emotional, mental intelligence development. Is that better? So that way, if you use more human words, being yourself, and that's with the enlightenment. So you're going to grow strength, courage, and curiosity as you're doing neuroplasticity with the bright sides, and you're going with the flow. So your heart has to be open. That means you're connected. That means your body's not in the protective mode. Your brain feels cool to be in darkness, and you're thinking thoughts that are not good or bad, and actually sometimes you're not thinking anything and you're allowing the emotion to be, and it's not about a long time. No, emotions actually last 90 seconds when you're practiced in using your prefrontal cortex. So it is something that you practice every time you're around and doing anything, because unknowns, uncertainties, unexpecteds, and unwanteds are definitely what I find a human condition, because we put the inner growth mindset to practice here at IHP, but the people who are not their self yet find it painful and suffering, and well, that's called something different. They're not expert yogis yet, so they're not comfortable with darkness. We're comfortable with it because, again, it's a figure of speech. Your human secondary consciousness is always going to be on, so you'll wake up and think, wow, I'm awake, thank goodness. That's what separates us from the animals who have only primary consciousness. the lovely therapist, I believe, call it a dilemma. Again, it's a condition for the ones of us who are curious, open, accepting, and loving with our flexible, adaptive, coherent, energized, and stable brains. Dr. Daniel Siegel has some awesome acronyms for when you are an integrated brain and a whole self, and his course on that taught me how to say, yeah, that's amazing. That's why I've never felt changed one day in my life. My child parts are all whole, so when they come up, I'm like, hey, what's up? 3-year-old, hey, 5-year-old, what up? So I have a good time. The personal spiritual growth practices, especially when we're doing it with groups, is really fun. So the feminine is a powerful dimension of life, empowered feminine here, but we also have, without the feminine energy, or Shakti, so the one feminine element, which I also compare to the cosmos. Some talk about it as the Holy Spirit. Then we have, again, God is the masculine. You don't have to write notes down, though. Remember, we all have different ways we bring to you things that we experience. And without the feminine energy or Shakti, there would be nothing in existence. Yes, dark matter and dark energy is how I bring it in with the sciences. And then we have our consciousness sciences people who are amazing. The physicist Thomas Campbell, I love him. I haven't read any of his material, but he explains how the truth is not fragile, which any of those of us who come with God, Akash Source, know. And it always expands. We're always expanding. So the only ones who think evil and low frequency wins are the same ones who haven't gotten out of it yet. And that's why their mind is actually something that is fragile. So if you look away, their confidence is eroded. They're actually subject to a bunch of different Wendy's, and they will typically be the ones who look to mediocre movies, all of it, social behavior, then they continue to use their life like that. And then be an example that is not one that is of the middle ground. So again, burgers, I eat burgers, not a lot, but I eat meat, no extremes. It's always moderate. And then we have our experts. So I'm woo-woo pseudoscience because we have a bunch of good sciences. When you find any expert that's good at what they do, they're going to continue learning. They're going to continue sharing with you more. And they're going to say, I know some things, not all things. And here's what we're learning. And when people are discerning, they know how to hear authentic timbre of science and spiritual and mystic, and that's the smart ones who are the real deal. And then we identify the pseudo-intellectuals. I'm a pseudoscience, not a pseudo-intellectual. So the ones who are selling their likes and dislikes, whatever it is that they think is moral is based on likes and dislikes, dogma, ancient history, so it's again very clear. They usually sound like what old farts sounded like to me, and I'm pretty sure I still sound a little bit like an old fart, because secure attachment is considered boring by those who don't have it. Again, the ventral energy is not boring. Your body's at ease. It doesn't keep you imprisoned when you're an expert in handling all of that, which is your child parts, and then in knowing it takes your whole lifetime to master the physical plane. It's really fun. Join us here, being yourself. Have a good one.